Today, we're going to talk about an event that didn't just leave a scar on history, it completely changed the world we live in. We're going to break down how the September 11th attacks forced a total rethinking of national security. Okay, let's get right into it.
You've probably seen this image before. For so many people, it's just unforgettable. It's a moment that literally stopped the world. And we're starting here because to really understand everything that came after, you first have to confront the reality of that day.
All right, so to really grasp the massive shift that followed, we need to quickly go over the basic facts. What exactly happened on September 11th, 2001?
Well, on that Tuesday morning, the Islamist terrorist group al-Qaeda launched 4 coordinated attacks against the United States. And this wasn't random. It was a meticulously planned operation that, to this day, remains the single deadliest terrorist attack in all of human history.
And when you look at it, the precision of the attacks is just chilling. What you're seeing right here is United Airlines Flight 175 hitting the South Tower of the World Trade Center. It was one of 4 commercial airliners that were hijacked and turned into weapons that morning.
The images are horrifying, for sure, but to really get a sense of the scale of this tragedy, you have to look at the numbers, and honestly, they're just staggering.
2,977. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's how many people lost their lives that day. Every single one of them, a story, a family, a future, just gone in an instant.
And the tragedy didn't stop with those who died. Over 25,000 people were injured, and for so many, these were substantial, life-altering health problems that they are still dealing with today.
And of course, among the dead were the heroes, 343 firefighters, plus 72 law enforcement officers. These were the people who ran toward the danger when everyone else was running away. Their sacrifice is just a huge part of this story.
And then there's the physical destruction. It's almost hard to wrap your head around it. The attacks caused at least $10 billion in property and infrastructure damage. It literally left a hole in the New York skyline and a huge scar on the Pentagon.
You know, in the aftermath, once the dust started to settle, one question began to rise above all the shock and grief. It wasn't just about who did this. It was about how. How on earth could a plot this big actually succeed? And asking that question, really digging into it, forced the entire country to take a long, hard look in the mirror. The answer, it turned out, wasn't simple at all. It pointed to some really deep, systemic failures within the nation's own security and intelligence agencies.
Now, what's so wild about this is how simple these failures sound on paper, right? Lack of coordination, lack of information sharing, but these simple-sounding problems had absolutely catastrophic consequences. You had different agencies, like the FBI and the CIA, each holding little pieces of the puzzle. The problem was no one was putting those pieces together to see the whole terrifying picture.
So this realization, this collective understanding that the system itself was broken, that was the spark. It kicked off one of the most significant shifts in American policy ever. It led to the creation of a whole new security paradigm.
And we're not just talking about a few new rules or policies here. We're talking about what's known as a paradigm shift. It basically means you throw out the old rulebook entirely, and you start from scratch. A complete fundamental rethinking of how you even approach the concept of national security. The old way was no longer an option.
And right here, this is the absolute heart of that shift. Before 9/11, the model was largely reactive. You basically waited for an attack to happen, and then you responded to it. After 9/11, that idea got thrown out the window. The new game was all about one thing: prevention. The goal was to stop these acts before they could ever happen.
So what did that actually look like in practice? Well, it was a direct answer to all those failures we just talked about. Brand new strategies were developed for preventing terrorism. But crucially, at the very center of it all was a massive new focus on forcing coordination and information sharing between agencies, the very thing that had been so fatally absent before.
And that brings us right back to today. Because this paradigm shift wasn't just some abstract government policy change. It changed the very fabric of society. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. All these years later, from the way you go through airport security to the data you share online, how does this post-9/11 world, this focus on prevention, continue to shape your daily life?